Hello everyone. Summer Game Fest has recently come and gone. The key word I would use to describe it was underwhelming. That should be expected when even the host fails to hype up the event. Like, come on, Jeff, you're supposed to at least act like you care about the games being announced. Especially with the amount of money you're having the developers pay for a look more speedy than those mushrooms from RVB. Like $550,000 for a 2.5 minute trailer? Are you fucking mental? That's the same cost as the Game Awards, even though Summer Game Fest is an even lower tier event. Could you imagine if an ad on the side of your neighbor's kid's baseball game cost as much as the Super Bowl? For an event that loves to claim how proud it is of indies, these prices are even more absurd. The small-time developer of Sex with Hitler should be able to showcase their game as well, beyond the typical indie presentations they tossed in as a mild aftertaste to the main show, which receive an even lower tier of viewership. Speaking of low tier, here's my ranking of everything that was announced. LEGO Horizon was the opener, which was certainly a choice. Maybe it was a last-minute decision due to the game being leaked, but it didn't impress me all that much. It's evident that TT Games isn't involved, as it resembles an entirely different, less polished beast. Going from a LEGO Star Wars game with a sprawling open world and its iconic gameplay to something that looks like those old Star Wars isometric mobile games instead is disappointing. This isn't even me being a Star Wars dick rider either. I haven't even finished the Skywalker saga fully. C tier. The only reason it's not lower is simply just because it's a LEGO game. I thought No More Room in Hell 2 was Back for Blood when I first saw it, but was surprised to instead see a sequel to a game I had never heard of. I trust that if it was that well received, it must not be a carbon copy. B tier. Metaphor ReFantazio is obviously going to be our first magical S tier. Anything that comes from the Persona developers is obviously going to be peak fiction. Hell, this game might end up feeling more like Persona than Persona 6, with all of its original developers being locked in on this. Neva is going to get a B tier. Massive fan of the art style, but I don't think the gameplay would be my forte. I didn't really get the post-apocalyptic vibe from Once Human. It actually looks similar to Civilization 7. Its gameplay involving teaming up with friends could totally put this game on the map as much as Helldivers, in my opinion. A tier. Warhammer 40k is just simply more Warhammer. B tier. Tears of Metal gets points from me for combining genres of roguelike and hack and slash, which will surely make for a unique experience. A tier. I'm biased against Delta Force Hawk Ops, as I have a bone to pick with the amount of shooters made being the only thing bigger than the number of overworked employees. E tier. Battle Crush gives me serious Pokemon Unite vibes. So long as the microtransactions aren't as bad, it should be a fun enough time. B tier. Mecha Break brings back memories of Genlock, that Michael B. Jordan executive produced Rooster Teeth show. For bringing back the memories of Rooster Teeth, fucking B tier, I don't know. Doesn't really stand out from other mecha games. Wanderstop is one of the few narrative-based games featured, so that in isolation moves it up to an A tier. As a bonus, the narrative actually seems unique, unlike the typical generic anime RPGs that hog up these events. Speaking of, we have Honkai Star Rail. As if it wasn't already destined for F- tier, it paid off many creators for positive reviews. Bastards are more insecure than your local teenager. I'm sure the people who play this game know a lot about teenagers. After the FNAF movie, I have to admit that Blumhouse Games is really nailing their journey into the world of gaming-related projects, as all these games look special in some way. That's especially hard to do in the horror genre, so I commend them for both that and the fact that they didn't simply adapt one of their existing IPs, instead giving smaller devs the chance to tell their own tales. Another company giving opportunities to smaller ones is Innersloth, with their newly announced project Outer Sloth. They also showed the first look at the Among Us show, but it was really nothing more than a quick animation that they would put out to announce a game update, and we were already aware of all the cast. Outer Sloth is essentially them paying it forward to a whole bunch of new indie devs, giving them the funds to make their dream game without asking for any stake whatsoever in the IP. This is especially sweet coming from Innersloth, as they were once in all of these devs' shoes. They know the struggle. This is obviously an S tier announcement, especially since a lot of the first games funded look interesting. I know my friend, you know who you are, would adore Mars First Logistics, as his two biggest interests are space and simulation games. Project Dosa blows Mecha Break out of the water, as you get to cook and have cool-ass Megazords. Speaking of Megazords, Power Rangers Rita's Rewind instantly gives off the retro style a la TMNT Shredder's Revenge. With the future of the franchise being unknown after the latest installment Cosmic Fury, aside from the rumored mature reboot. Yeah, that went well last time, with even the mature comics coming to an end. It's nice to see at least one project release. There should not be a world in which kids aren't experiencing new Power Rangers content. Gen Alpha certainly needs the moral lessons. A tier. Power Rangers is not the only game giving me TMNT vibes. Batman Arkhamverse is continuing with Shadows and features a Rat King as the villain. Surprisingly, the only VR-heavy game talked about. It seems like VR has been all the rage in the last few years. But not now. B tier. Harry Potter. Well, I know where J.K. Rowling would put it if there was a trans athlete, but as for me, this is just a nothing burger. C tier. Cuff Bust, which could also be the title of a really good X video, especially for those with a prison fetish, just like Papa Jake when he made all those cardboard box prison videos. Reminds me of Lethal Company with the orange prison jumpsuits, and multiplayer more chaotic than a COD lobby. A tier. Speaking of COD, I did not know it was this different now. Damn. I have zero clue what Civilization is, but with 7 installments, it must be pretty big. Unless they were all greenlit by Netflix, which chooses the weirdest things to gift additional entries. B tier. Street Fighter 6 is getting new characters, but the gaps are too wide, taking the term seasonal updates way too far, only adding one new character for each real world season. That's gonna lower this announcement to a D tier. The Finals is getting an actual new season and a new map. Here's an image to describe my reaction. I legit have no words. Star Wars Outlaws was touched upon. Of course, the main highlight that Jeff focused on was the fact that Lando was visible in the trailer. Everyone loves cameos. C tier despite my bias towards Star Wars. Black Myth Wukong and Anotria only got brief looks with no actual gameplay, so I'm pretty clueless as to what's to be expected of these games. In Anotria's defense, though, a demo is at least currently available, so D tier and C tier. Fatal Fury gets added to the generic game pile, D tier. Monster Hunter's fine and dandy, but should not have taken up time at 2 events in such a short time frame, B tier. Dragon Ball Sparking will seemingly allow you to simulate your own battles between the characters, so at least we'll have a way to create our own death battles despite the Rooster Teeth shutdown, B tier. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 just looks like an early sneak peek of what Elder Scrolls 6 could be, so that's gonna dock at some originality points, C tier. Dark and Darker is just that but worse, D tier. Deer and Boy seems to be blending the wilderness with magic, cool combo, B tier. Path of the Goddess just makes me assume we're at one of those 15-minute state-up plays, just a standard action game that would take up the majority of the show, D tier. Same goes for New World Eternum. Hyper Light Breaker is yet another sequel to a game I don't know. I'll just say B for the aesthetic alone. I appreciate the mixture of natural, earth, and tech elements simultaneously. Killer Bean is such an iconic meme, so to see it get transformed into a game is awesome. It's rare to see a movie be adapted into a game. The only thing coming to my mind right now are those shitty low-budget Disney games you could buy on the 3DS. I guess Marvel games technically count as well. A tier. Dune Awakening is also pulling a Killer Bean, though, going from movie to game. What differentiates it, though, is it's going for a what-if scenario. Using another form of media to do this is a great idea, as it'll help us distinguish the two timelines. A tier, regardless of me being apparently the only person to have not watched Dune. Alan Wake 2's new DLC does look extremely trippy and engaging, part of the course for the series, but I think the more important thing to come out of the announcement was the confirmation of a physical release for the game. It proves that if you're loud enough, your voice can be heard. Now, if only that could be true for TF2 fans with the whole fixed TF2 thing. S tier. Claren looks like a love child between Getting Over It and Only Up. Let's just hope it has the same popularity. Whenever these games blow up, it's always a fun time. A tier. Splinterhead is a definite highlight. Not only does it come from the Silent Hill developers, but its action gameplay makes me think of Yakuza, while also bearing some similarities to Ghostwire Tokyo and Shin Megami Tensei. Maybe it's just an extremely Japanese Silent Hill? A tier. Unknown 9 Awakening is Reflector Studios' first game. That's fucking mind-blowing. Not only does the game look fresh, both in concept and polish, but looks to have a very intriguing narrative. You know by now I'm a simp for storytelling, so A tier. If this is just Reflector's opening act, we have quite the group entering the fray. Battle Aces is said to be an introduction for players new to games like League of Legends. I'm sorry, man, but I think Jeff's bad marketing rubbed off on you. How's that supposed to motivate me to buy your game? D tier. The First Descendant is yet another action shooter, but I will say the trailer does its best to mask this, showcasing various special abilities the player can use. More interesting than Delta Force because of that, so B tier. Sonic fans are eating well, that's certain. Doesn't scratch my itch personally though, so B tier for Sonic X Shadows Generations. I think B tier is going to be the hotspot by the end of this. Jesus, higher population than China at this rate. Party Animals is adding racing and potentially other activities as well. I've loved the idea of this game since it first came out, so S tier for me. I just beg for it to come to PlayStation or Switch. I guess Xbox needed some advantage after all the drama. Screw Halo as their system seller, Party Animals is in the house now. Valorant is coming to consoles. I think the players will fit right in with the eternally scuffling console war soldiers. I would give this the low-ass rating it deserves, but making a game more accessible is virtually always a good thing. C tier. Squad Busters looks pretty mid on its own, especially due to being a mobile game, but the ad is by far the best one, as it has a celeb guest star being Ken Jeong. Despite being both an actor and a doctor, he's most known for his totally not staged stupidity on The Masked Singer, being treated as more of a joke than Yasuhiro from Danganronpa. Why would this game use someone from a shitty reality show to promote it, you may ask? Well, Masked Singer also features Nick Cannon as the host, and we all know he loves to fertilize eggs. D tier. Skate is a game series I have a ton of fond memories with. Particularly Skate 3, where I jumped the shark more times than the Fast and Furious franchise. Have they done so literally yet? Anyways, I was ecstatic when I heard Skate would be making an appearance, but that excitement didn't end up being justified. All that was shown was a 30-second clip of some skating. Ooh, thanks, Captain Obvious. Skate'll have skating. Because of that, this announcement only gets a B, even though it pains me more than EvanTube HD quitting YouTube. Rest in peace, my childhood. It felt surreal to see Palworld actually be recognized professionally, but it was, as it unveiled a new map, arena mode, and new pals that still resemble Pokemon. You can't deny they're doing it on purpose now. At least the arena is a fresh feature. For that, I won't dunk on the game too hard. C tier. Phantom Blade Zero is how they decided to close the show. Very emblematic of the show overall. A pretty good game with interesting combat mechanics, but nothing really mind-blowing. What better way to conclude the list than with the overpopulated B tier? B is a great grade to give the show in general as well. A few great games, particularly on the indie side, but really missing any heavy hitters. I would say I have doubts about if the Summer Games Fest will make a triumphant return next year, but with those absurd prices, as I talked about, acting as its welfare check, it will.